The biggest game of week 4 is, without a doubt, the top 10 showdown in South Bend as number 6 Ohio State takes on number 9 Notre Dame. Will Ohio State go into South Bend and silence all of the doubters, or will Notre Dame finally get a big win, the biggest win of the Marcus Freeman era, and prove that they are a college football playoff contender? That is the question that we're going to answer today. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us as we break down everything you need to know and predict the winner of Ohio State and Notre Dame on Saturday night. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. And of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. If you want guaranteed winnings right back in your pocket, a guaranteed winning record, this is the place for you. Go sign up today for that full year-long subscription, as we have beat out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 5 years. Each of the last 5 years, we have beat out over 80% of the national handicappers, and we will do it again this year. So go sign up for those picks today. Get our spread pick for this matchup between the Buckeyes and the Fighting Irish. And also check out our Patreon account and our mailing address. Send us some of your team's gear to be featured in every single Gridiron Expert video, just like the ones we have behind us right now. So let's take a look at this game, guys. You know, Ohio State and Notre Dame, they met in the season opener last year in Columbus. Ohio State winning that game 21-10, despite trailing 7-3 at halftime. Notre Dame was holding their own. Really didn't have much of an offense, though. New quarterback, new system, first full year under Marcus Freeman. Held their own, ultimately fell against the Buckeyes. Now I feel like the roles are kind of reversed, right? Both teams are more than qualified and more than worthy of being in the top 10. But Ohio State kind of dealing with a new quarterback situation, some questions on that side of the ball, while Notre Dame, on the other hand, now has home field advantage, has consistency at quarterback, a major quarterback upgrade, and seems to have the pieces finally in place to make a run at the college football playoff and maybe a national title. You take a look at the offense first. We'll start with Ohio State. You know, it's been the story the entire offseason and really the first 3 weeks of the year for the Buckeyes, right? It's been who's going to be quarterback, how are they going to look, can this be a team that gets back to the college football playoff and maybe wins it this year? Can they go back and win the Big Ten? Can they finally beat Michigan after losing the last few, which is clearly unacceptable in Columbus? When you take a look at Ohio State, you know, last week they had a great outing against Western Kentucky. 63 points, over 560 yards of offense, which is awesome considering that in the first 2 weeks against Indiana and Youngstown State, the Buckeyes only had 58 points combined and only 862 yards. So they had only 300 yards less and more points total than the amount of yards and points they had in the first 2 weeks combined. So obviously the best offensive output from Ohio State by far last week against the Hilltoppers. Kyle McCord got the nod, 815 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception on the year. This is an Ohio State offense that, you know, despite the struggles that they've had, is still averaging over 318 passing yards per game and over 150 rushing yards per game, led by Travion Henderson, and obviously a wide receiver core led by Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, both who have three touchdowns this year. That core alone, the best in the entire nation. So Ohio State's offense is really, really good. It ultimately comes down to consistent quarterback play. Kyle McCord is the starter right now, and he has shown flashes of brilliance, but how will he fare now in South Bend in the toughest environment and the toughest game that he has played in to date? That is the biggest question right now. Notre Dame, on the other hand, they've got a great passing game. They've got a great offense. This is what we've been talking about all year long. Is it feels like Notre Dame finally has the pieces to make that run at a national title. And in years past, they've had good teams. They've had good defenses. The offenses have been okay, but they've been missing that big difference maker at quarterback. And now they've got it in Sam Hartman, who has already thrown for over 1,000 yards, 13 touchdowns, 0, not a single interception this year, leading a team that's averaging over 300 passing yards per game and over 200 rushing yards per game for 508 yards per game total. That's really, really good. And I know, you know, Notre Dame hasn't played the best teams in the world. Tennessee State, Navy, NC State, Central Michigan. The schedule's been weak. So has Ohio State. But how they have looked in those games, winning convincingly, winning in dominating fashion, not making too many mistakes, has been really, really impressive. Hartman obviously leads the way. He steals the show, but don't sleep on Audric Estime either. 521 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, averaging 8.3 yards per carry. Estime has been phenomenal, and I think we put so much focus on the passing game from Notre Dame that we're forgetting about Estime in the run game, and we're forgetting about how good this offensive line for the Fighting Irish really is. Multiple NFL draft picks on that offensive line. They're going to be kind of the X factor for Notre Dame in this game against Ohio State. The key for Notre Dame is, biggest thing, is staying balanced, right? They've got to find a way to not be one-dimensional. Don't let Estime get shut down. Don't let Hartman consistently be under pressure and have him struggle in this game. They have to find a way to stay balanced and continue to use both those guys. Once you become one-dimensional, Ohio State starts to win. Ohio State's defense, on the other hand, the question is, can they make them one-dimensional? Through 3 games, they've looked solid, only giving up 223.7 yards per game, 140 through the air, only 83 on the ground. But as we mentioned for both these teams, this is the toughest test that either team has seen all year. Ohio State's defense has looked good against a bad Indiana team, an FCS program in Youngstown State, and a Western Kentucky team that sure has a good offense, but still, a team that many expected Ohio State to win in dominating fashion. Toughest team they've seen all year. Best offense they have seen all year long. It's an Ohio State defense that, despite playing 3 inferior opponents the last 3 weeks, only has 5 sacks and has only forced 5 turnovers. Can they find a way to generate pressure on Sam Hartman, force him into mistakes, maybe force him into his first interception of the year, but they're going up against a Notre Dame offensive line that's only given up 4 sacks all year long. So again, who wins that battle? Who wins that battle in the trenches? Does Ohio State protect their quarterback? Do they open up running lanes for Audric Estime? Or does Ohio State win up front? Do they bust through the line? They bottle up Estime to where Notre Dame can't get anything going on the ground, and they force Sam Hartman into mistakes or a lot of second and third and long situations. That is what I'm really curious to watch. That is probably the biggest battle I'm looking out for in this entire game for the entirety of the day, is the offensive line versus the defensive line, the battle in the trenches up front. Notre Dame, on the other hand, the defense under Marcus Freeman, and as it's been for many years before him, is typically a strength. It is a strength again this year. A team that is only giving up 234 yards per game, a team that has 6 sacks already on the year, and like Ohio State, has also forced 5 turnovers, giving up 126 passing yards, giving up 108 rushing yards on the year. This is, again, a Notre Dame defense that's really, really good, but if you look at the teams they've played, again, the numbers are skewed. The same goes for Ohio State. We're going to get a true look at what both these teams are like on Saturday night. You look at what Ohio State's done. They've allowed over 100 rushing yards 2 times this year. One of them was to Navy, where the midshipmen ran the ball 48 times, only averaged 2.6 yards per carry. The other was last week against Central Michigan, where the Chippewas ran 34 times, averaging just 3.9 yards per carry. So, when the team rushes for nearly 35 yards or 35 attempts per game, they're probably going to have a couple breakout runs there. I would be shocked if Ohio State ran 35, 40 times per game. I'd be shocked to see them run the ball that often in this game, especially if they're not having much success. So that's kind of what I'm looking out for here as well. Does Ohio State bottle up that run game and force Kyle McCord to win the game through the air? That's, to me, how Notre Dame wins this game. It's forcing a young quarterback in the most difficult, loudest, toughest environment against the toughest opponent that he has seen in his young career as a starter. That's how you win the game. Force him to win it all by himself. Put the game on Kyle McCord's shoulders. If Notre Dame's defense does that, they're going to be looking really, really good. And the last thing I'll say is this. Notre Dame, you've got home field advantage. You have an opportunity to create pressure on this quarterback. Do not shoot yourself in the foot. Through the course of this season, Notre Dame has beat themselves up with penalties. 23 penalties for 200 yards so far this season. They're averaging 50 penalty yards per game. And that's going to play a big role here. If Notre Dame is not disciplined, the Fighting Irish are not disciplined, they will shoot themselves in the foot. They will give Ohio State more yards than they need. They will give Ohio State free first downs. They will give Ohio State the ability to continue to extend drives. Notre Dame has to remain disciplined, more so right now than Ohio State. So what's going to happen on Saturday? What's going to happen on Saturday? Again, you go back to last year, Ohio State won 21-10, and Columbus was a much better game than I think the score really indicated. Now you come to South Bend. It's rocking. It's at night. It's one of the biggest games, not just of the season, but of Marcus Freeman's career at Notre Dame. This is an opportunity for the Fighting Irish to get a signature statement victory and prove to the country they can win the big games, and they are playoff contenders. But it's also an opportunity for Ryan Day to do the exact same thing, to get the monkey off of his back and say, look, I know I haven't beat Michigan. I know I haven't won a national championship, but look, we just beat Notre Dame in South Bend. Stop criticizing us. We're going to be fine. Ultimately, guys, who gets this statement victory, who gets this resume-boosting victory towards their playoff hopes? It's going to be Notre Dame. We picked the Fighting Irish back in the preseason. I'm sticking with that pick now. I love Notre Dame in this spot. I love them as the underdog. I love that they're being slept on. They own the quarterback advantage. To me, they own the offensive advantage as a whole. The defense can match Ohio State, so maybe they own the advantage there. They own home field advantage. We know South Bend is not an easy place to play. I think Kyle McCord struggles in this game. I think the Notre Dame defense lights up. They don't win by a large margin, but they get the win. A win is a win is a win, no matter how big, how small. Notre Dame gets it. They propel themselves into the top 5. They're a true playoff contender. Ohio State, once again, left searching for answers, taking an early season loss, and the margin for error, the room for error, now slim to none the rest of the year. So there you go, guys. We are picking Notre Dame to win the game of the week over Ohio State. This is the must-see game of Week 4 among all the other ranked versus ranked matchups, of which we will be covering later on right here at the channel. But until then, as always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Guaranteed winners right over there. Go sign up for those today. Check out our Patreon account. Check out our mailing address to send us some of your team's gear to be featured in every single Gridiron Expert video. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.